Hello and welcome to Hollywood at Home from Arizona Public Media. I'm Victoria Lucas. Are you in the mood to laugh? Because tonight we are screening one of the classic screwball comedies. How's this for a setup? Take a handsome but stodgy scientist trying to get funding for his museum, add a beautiful but madcap heiress, entangle them in alarming situations with a couple of look-alike but poles apart leopards, one a pet named Baby, the other a dangerous cat escaped from the local zoo. Then throw in a big game hunter, a society dowager, and police lockup. Oh, and a mischievous fox terrier with a penchant for burying dinosaur bones. Toss them all together and, hey, what could go wrong? Naturally, the answer is just about everything, and in the most unexpected ways. Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn star as the perfectly mismatched couple who find romance in the midst of chaos in 1938's Bringing Up Baby, a fast-paced movie filled with gags and pratfalls, rapid-fire dialogue, witty banter, and almost too many double entendres to count. And speaking of doubles, the animal actors are wonderful too. Nyssa the leopard, yes, a real live leopard, more than holds her own against her famous human co-stars, as she does double duty, playing both Baby and the ferocious escapee. And I'll tell you how that worked in a couple of minutes. And while Nyssa may not be a natural comedian, her four-legged fuzzy co-star certainly is. He's the amazing Skippy, the same dog known to film fans everywhere as Asta in the Thin Man series, continuing his lovable, laughable, scene-stealing ways. American filmgoers in the mid-1930s flocked to screwball comedies as they sought escape from the disheartening effects of the Great Depression and the threat of war in Europe. At the same time, Hollywood's movie industry was under political pressure to clean itself up following a number of notorious scandals in the 1920s. Studios responded by creating the Motion Picture Production Code, an industry-wide set of guidelines for what movies could and could not show on screen in order to, as they put it, avoid lowering the moral standards of the audience. In other words, voluntary censorship. But since screwball usually involves funny romantic entanglements and a nudge, nudge, wink, wink attitude toward love, this new and improved model caused one film scholar to lament, it's movies about sex without any sex in them. Still, he added, perhaps the greatest, certainly the wildest of these was Bringing Up Baby. One of the greatest appeals of tonight's movie, both for audiences of the time and even today, is the unexpected pleasure of watching the lead actors playing roles that seem to go against their usual type. For that, we have famed director Howard Hawks to thank. We usually think of Cary Grant as a suave, debonair, and unflappable leading man, and Katharine Hepburn as a serious and commanding grande dame. But in fact, Grant had appeared in a number of comedies in his early years, and he had been a stilt walker and acrobat in a vaudeville troupe as a teenager. Grant later remembered how the director helped him with tonight's role by suggesting he model his performance on comic actor Harold Lloyd, even to the character's glasses. As for Katharine Hepburn, Bringing Up Baby would be her first pure comedy after working mostly in period romances. And despite her huge talent, it became clear early on to director Hawks that Hepburn didn't understand how to play this kind of outrageous screwball farce. The problem, as he saw it, was that she kept trying to be funny. For example, when Grant would do a pratfall, she would stagger around laughing, pointing, in other words, overplaying her response. Finally, Hawks called his friend, Walter Catlett, an old pro who'd been a comic for the Ziegfeld Follies, to come to the set. As Hawks later remembered, the conversation went like this. "Walter, have you been watching Miss Hepburn?" "Yep." "You know what she's doing?" "Yep." "Will you tell her?" "Nope." Hawks said he paused for a moment. "Okay, supposing she asks you?" "Well, then I'd have to tell her." So Hawks hurried over to Hepburn. "There's a man here who I think could help you with some comedy tricks." Hepburn showed her true professionalism when she not only took Catlett's advice about the pace and the style of comedy, she also asked Hawks to hire Catlett and keep him around the set so she could call on him for further help, which is how Catlett came to be cast as tonight's absent-minded Constable Slocum. After that slow start, Hepburn blossomed doing slapstick. Hawks was impressed by her physical coordination and sense of timing, and he started to encourage improvisation on the set. Both actors responded with some inspired ad-libs. Watch for the scene when Hepburn breaks a heel in the search for Baby and limps in a circle. Her comment to Grant was ad-libbed, although she much later admitted that he had whispered it to her just before the cameras rolled. And one of the film's most inspired moments, when Grant and Hepburn have to walk in lockstep, was, according to Grant, adapted from a real event that happened to him at the theater one night. The exact nature I cannot reveal to you on public television. But I can tell you more about Nissa, the dual role-playing leopard owned and trained by Swedish-born Olga Celeste, a 20-year Hollywood veteran. Hepburn got on very well with the big cat, spending time with Nissa before each day's scenes and being careful to follow the trainer's instructions, which included wearing a specific perfume Nissa liked and applying sticky resin to the bottom of her shoes so she wouldn't slip and fall in front of the occasionally excitable cat. Cary Grant, on the other hand, was never comfortable with the leopard, and most, though not all, of their scenes together were filmed either with a photo double or using trick photography in which Grant and the leopard were filmed separately in the same frame. Then the two negatives were put together in the film lab to make it appear they were in the scene together. Meanwhile, Skippy, the dog, was his usual friendly, attentive, and scene-stealing self, everybody's friend, though, like Cary Grant, he never ventured too close to Nissa's crate. Smart dog. Despite generally positive reviews and initially strong box office results upon its release in 1938, Bringing Up Baby was not an immediate commercial success. However, it has remained popular over the years and is now recognized as a classic, continuing to delight audiences more than 80 years after it was produced, which is, after all, the true measure of any movie's worth. So now please sit back and enjoy the film that reminds us that life is to be enjoyed, no matter how outrageous the situation. From RKO Pictures and director Howard Hawks, it's Bringing Up Baby.